I died choking on my own vomit in a motel room off I-95. The cheap whiskey burning my throat one last time as the pills kicked in, my vision blurring with the faces of my in-laws smirking like they'd won the goddamn lottery. The betrayal hit harder than the overdose. Richard and Evelyn Hargrove, my picture-perfect mother and father-in-law, had siphoned every cent from Ethan's college fund, the one I bled for, scraping by as a single mom before marrying their golden boy,
Tom.
But as the darkness swallowed me, a sick twist of fate yanked me back. I woke up gasping in my old bed. 5 years earlier, the alarm clock blinking 7:14 a.m. On a crisp September morning in 2020, my body 28 again. Ethan's tiny hand still curled around my finger in his crib down the hall. It was impossible. I'd clawed my way through life in suburban Connecticut, a far cry from the glamour of Manhattan where the Hargroves lorded over their real estate empire. Tom and I met at a charity gala in Stamford, me, the ambitious paralegal with student loans up to my eyeballs, him the charming heir with a trust fund smile that hid the rot underneath. We married fast. Too fast. In a whirlwind of champagne toasts and Evelyn's pearl-clutching approval. Ethan came along 9 months later. Our perfect little anchor. His chubby cheeks a reminder that maybe, just maybe, I'd found my slice of the American dream. But dreams curdle quick when you're dealing with vipers. In my first life, it started small, Richard investing a chunk of the fund in some shady property deal, promising tenfold returns. Evelyn cooed over Ethan, baking him apple pies laced with her passive-aggressive barbs about my modest background. Tom? He buried his head in mergers and acquisitions, too busy climbing the family ladder to notice the noose tightening around our necks. By the time Ethan turned 8, the fund was a ghost. $250,000 vanished into Hargrove Holdings' black hole. I'd confronted them in their Greenwich mansion, the one with the marble floors that echoed my rage like a bad joke. "You stole from my son," I'd screamed, waving bank statements that meant nothing because Richard had lawyers who ate evidence for breakfast. Evelyn had sipped her Chardonnay, eyes cold as Lake Michigan in January. "Darling, it's all in the family. Tom's future depends on it. Tom's future. Not ours. Not Ethan's shot at Yale or State or hell, even community college without drowning in debt." That night, Tom sided with them, my husband, the man who'd vowed to protect us, because blood is thicker, and mine was the wrong vintage. The unraveling was swift. Divorce papers hit like a freight train. I lost custody battles rigged by Hargrove money. Ethan grew up calling Evelyn Nana while I couch-surfed, popping antidepressants like candy. The motel? That was rock bottom. A deliberate exit after finding out Richard had cooked the books not just for greed, but to cover a bigger sin, embezzlement from clients, widows and orphans who'd trusted the Hargrove name. I died knowing I'd failed my boy, leaving him to their claws.
Now,
Reborn in this sweat-dampened queen bed in our starter home in Norwalk, the sheets tangled around legs that felt too young, too alive. I bolted upright. The digital clock's red glow mocked me. September 15th, 2020. The pandemic was raging. Masks mandatory. The world on pause. But not mine. Not anymore. Ethan was 3 months old, cooing from his nursery, oblivious to the storm I'd unleash. My hands trembled as I touched my flat stomach. No scars from the C-section yet. No laugh lines from forcing smiles at family dinners. This was my do-over. A cosmic middle finger to fate, and I'd burn their empire to ash before they touched a dime of his future. First things first, fortify the fund. In my old life, I'd scrimped from freelance legal gigs, socking away birthday checks and overtime. This time, I'd start smarter. I slipped into yoga pants and a faded Columbia hoodie. God, I'd missed this body, and padded to the kitchen. Tom's side of the bed was empty. He was already at the gym, prepping for another day schmoozing clients. Fine. Let him play the devoted husband a little longer. I brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Ironic. That, and fired up my laptop. The Hargrove login portal stared back, taunting. In the before, I trusted them with the accounts.
Now?
I'd migrate everything to a bulletproof trust, ironclad against their sticky fingers. My fingers flew over keys, heart pounding like a bass drum at a Metallica concert. Password: Ethan S. Smile 2020. Pathetic. How blind I'd been. By noon, the transfer was done. $50,000 seed money into a new Fidelity account. Beneficiary: Ethan Michael Reyes Hargrove. Irrevocable. I added a rider. Any withdrawal required dual signatures from me and an independent trustee. No loopholes. Sweat beaded on my forehead. This was treason in Hargrove eyes. But screw them. I'd play the doting daughter-in-law a while longer, lulling them into complacency. Tom breezed in at 1, reeking of protein shakes and entitlement. Morning. Gorgeous. Traffic's a bitch with all the COVID bullshit. He pecked my cheek. Eyes on his phone, text from Richard. No doubt. I forced a laugh. The kind that used to come easy. Missed you. Ethan's down for his nap. Want lunch? We ate turkey sandwiches on the deck. The autumn leaves turning gold like nothing had changed. But everything had. As he rambled about a new development in Fairfield, Hargrove's latest grift on over-leveraged millennials, I studied him. Same jawline. Same dimples that charmed juries. Was he in on it from the start? In the old timeline, he'd sworn ignorance, but his tears felt rehearsed. This time, I'd test the waters. Babe, I said casually, slicing an apple for Ethan. I've been thinking about his college fund. With the market tanking, maybe we should diversify. What do your folks say? Tom's fork paused midair. Dad's got it handled. Some REITs that are recession-proof. Why worry your pretty head? My pretty head. The condescension stung like vinegar in a cut. I smiled wider. Just want to be sure. For our boy. He squeezed my hand, eyes softening. You're the best, Mom.
Ari.
We'll be fine.
Lies.
All of it. But I nodded, filing away the flicker in his gaze, the one that said he knew more than he let on. That night, as Ethan nursed in the rocker, moonlight slicing through blinds like prison bars, I plotted. Step 1. Document everything. I'd become a ghost in their machine, a digital specter haunting Hargrove Holdings servers. My paralegal chops weren't rusty. If anything, death had sharpened them. I'd need allies, old law school buddies, a hacker contact from a cold case I'd worked. But first, intel. The next week blurred into a fever dream of normalcy laced with subversion. Diaper changes by day, VPN tunnels by night. I posed as a temp admin, phishing credentials from Richard's assistant with a forged email about pandemic protocols. Jackpot. Access to the internal ledger. What I found curdled my blood faster than spoiled milk. It wasn't just greed. Richard had been laundering money, shell companies funneling bribes from Chinese developers skirting EPA regs. Evelyn, She signed off on falsified audits. Her charity galas fronts for kickbacks. And Tom? His name dotted the approvals, right alongside. My husband wasn't the pawn. He was the knight, sacrificing pawns like me for checkmate. Worse, the fund. In this timeline, they hadn't touched it yet, but projections showed reallocation slated for Q4 2021 to cover a $2 million shortfall from their Ponzi-light schemes. Ethan's future. Collateral for their sins. I slammed the laptop shut.
Bilirsin.
This wasn't theft, it was ritual sacrifice. I confronted my reflection in the bathroom mirror, eyes wild. You're not that broken girl anymore, Ariana Reyes. You're the reckoning. But doubt not, Ethan's giggles from the baby monitor. Tom's arm around my waist as we binge-watched The Crown. Could I dismantle them without losing him? The decisions ahead would be ugly. Leaks to the SEC. Anonymous tips to the FBI. Maybe even seducing a whistleblower for dirt. Controversial? Hell yes. But justice in America isn't clean. It's a street fight with brass knuckles. As October chilled the air, I reached out to Lena, my old mentor from the DA's office. Ari, thought you went corporate. What's up? Her voice crackled over Zoom. Skeptical but warm. Need a favor. Off books. I fed her snippets, enough to peek without doxing myself. She whistled low. This smells like Rico territory. You sure you want to dance with devils? They're already waltzing with my family. We plotted. She'd loop in a Fed contact. I'd supply the breadcrumbs. Meanwhile, at Thanksgiving, early, Zoom style with the Hargroves beaming from their sunroom, I played the part. Evelyn gushed over Ethan's onesie pics. Richard toasted to new beginnings. Tom beamed, clueless or complicit. Under the table, my phone buzzed. Lena's text. Got a bite. Fed circling. Adrenaline surged, hot and electric. The game was on. But cracks formed fast. Tom noticed my late nights. The locked screens. You're different, Ari. Distracted. Sex that night was mechanical. His touches possessive. I faked moans. Mine miles away on server logs. Wire transfers. The damning email chain where Evelyn wrote, "Handle the paralegal bitch if she snoops." Tom soft on her.
Bitch. Me.
They'd planned to sideline me years ago. Winter hit like a hammer. Snow blanketing Norwalk in false purity. Ethan toddled his first steps on Christmas Eve, crashing into Tom's legs with a squeal. For a heartbeat, I wavered. This life. This love. Could it be salvaged? But then Richard's gift arrived. A crystal decanter. Engraved to the family that stays together. Poisonous subtext. New Year's Eve. I cracked. Alone in the garage while Tom snored off champagne, I pored over the records. There it was, the secret buried deepest. Not just laundering, extortion. Richard had dirt on a state senator. Photos from a gentleman's club that'd make Epstein blush. Evelyn's signature on the hush money. And woven through, Tom's alias on the payoffs. My husband wasn't climbing. He was clawing through mud. Tears froze on my cheeks. But resolve hardened like steel. I'd expose them. All of them. But how? A straight leak risked backlash. Hargrove lawyers would bury me in defamation suits. Paint me as the hysterical ex. No. This needed theater. Controversy. Something that'd make headlines from Fox to CNN. Dividing the nation on family values versus corporate greed. I started small. Anonymous posts on Reddit's r/truecrime and r/Wall Street bets. Teasers. Billionaire family draining kid's future? Check the filings. Screenshots blurred just enough. The hive mind ignited. By January, Hargrove heist trended. Armchair detectives dissecting public records I'd seeded. Tom paced our living room, face ashen. This is insane. Dad says it's a witch hunt. I feigned shock. Heart twisting. But if it's true. Ethan? He pulled me close, whispering, we'll fight it. Together. Lies.
Still.
But his grip tightened. A warning. February brought the subpoena. Feds raided the Greenwich estate. Cameras flashing like paparazzi at a Kardashian meltdown. Evelyn's meltdown went viral. Mascara rivers. Wailing about persecution. Richard lawyered up. Tom shuttled between boardrooms and bail hearings. I played the grieving daughter-in-law, leaking more to Lena, the extortion files. Time-stamped. The twist hit like a gut punch. During discovery, Tom's phone record surfaced, text to a PI, tell Ariana. She's digging. He'd known about the fun skim from day one, greenlit it to secure our legacy.
For Ethan? No.
For the Hargrove throne. Betrayal's knife twisted deeper. That night, as sirens wailed outside our home, reporters camping like vultures, I packed a go bag. Ethan in his carrier. Oblivious. Tom burst in, eyes wild. Ari, what the hell? You did this. I faced him, voice steady as Vermont granite. You stole from our son. From us. For them. He lunged, but I sidestepped, grabbing the baseball bat from the closet. Controversial? Sure. But survival's gray. Don't. Or you'll join them in cuffs. He crumpled,
sobbing.
I did it for you. For stability. The world's cruel. Cruel like bleeding widows dry. I shoved the printouts at him, his signatures.
Cold and damning.
Confess. Or I walk. And you rot alone. Dawn broke as we drove to the FBI field office in New Haven. Tom spilling like a punctured tire. Plea deal. Immunity for full cooperation. Richard and Evelyn, indicted on racketeering. Fraud. The works. Their empire crumbled in slow motion. Foreclosures. Lawsuits. Evelyn hawking her Birkins on eBay. But the real twist? In the chaos. Ethan spiked a fever, RSV.
The doc said. As I held him in the ER.
Monitors beeping. Tom paced outside. Free but fractured. I love you.
Ari.
Let me fix this. I looked at our boy. His breaths ragged. And saw the truth. Love wasn't blood or legacy. It was choices. Mine? I'd chosen fire. Spring bloomed as trials dragged. I testified, voice cracking under cross-exam. But the records, my records spoke louder. Juries in 3 states convicted, Richard to 25 years. Evelyn 18 with time served for cooperation. Her tears bought leniency. Tom, community service, probation, a lifetime of shame. We divorced quietly, me keeping full custody. The fund, replenished by restitution, $300K plus interest. Ethan thrived, starting kindergarten with a backpack full of dreams, not debt.
Me?
I moved to Brooklyn, launched a nonprofit, Rhea's Watch, auditing family trusts for grifters. Controversy followed, accusations of vigilantism, but the donors poured in. Tom's calls went unanswered. He faded into some Midwest exile, chasing redemption I'd never grant. On Ethan's 8th birthday, echoing the milestone that broke me before, I watched him blow out candles, wishing for adventures with Mom. My heart swelled, scars fading like old tattoos. Rebirth wasn't revenge's end. It was mine. In America's grind, we rise or we burn. I chose both and came out forged. The summer after the trials, heat waves baked the city like a forgotten pizza. And I found myself back in Connecticut for closure, or so I told myself. Ethan was glued to his iPad, obsessed with Minecraft builds that mirrored his budding architect dreams, while I nursed a iced latte on the patio of our old Norwalk house. I'd sold it cheap to a young couple, the kind Tom and I used to be, hopeful, blind.
Now.
It felt like excavating a grave. Lena called as cicadas droned. Ari, you see the op-ed? Evelyn's penning a memoir from minimum security. Betrayed by my own blood. Can you believe the balls? I snorted, the sound bitter as black coffee. Let her. It'll tank harder than her husband's stock. But inside, it itched. The feds had nailed the big fish. But loose ends frayed, a shadow account I'd glimpsed in the ledgers. $500,000 funneled to an offshore entity. Echo Trust. No ties to Hargrove on paper. But my gut screamed cover-up. Richard's final play? Or something uglier? That night, Ethan asleep with his stuffed T-Rex, I dove back in. VPN on. Tor browser humming like a guilty conscience. Echo Trust led to the Caymans. Then a Delaware LLC, classic money maze. Hours bled into dawn. Tom's old password cracked it. Paydirt, beneficiary. A name I'd buried deep. Maria Reyes. My mother. The world tilted. Mom had died when I was 16, cancer. The big C that ate her from lungs to spirit in our cramped Queens apartment. I'd clawed out of poverty on her memory. Law school scholarships and grit. But here, transfers dated back a decade. Pre-Tom. Not gifts, hush money. For what? Flashback hit like vertigo. Mom's late nights at the diner. Bruises she blamed on clumsy shifts. Whispers from neighbors about that rich guy who visited. Richard Hargrove. I'd met him once. At a parent-teacher night. All silver fox charm. Your mom's a gem. Ariana. Deserves better. Better. Like what? A penthouse affair? The pieces slotted. Mom's inheritance that paid my tuition. Richard's guilt money. Laundering his midlife crisis through her veins. Evelyn knew. Texts in the archive. Keep the help quiet.
Rich.
Or Tom's college fund suffers. They'd poison my roots before I even married in. Rage boiled. Pure and volcanic. This wasn't just theft. It was genesis of the monster. I'd avenged Ethan.
But Mom?
Her ghost demanded more. Decision time. Controversial as hell. Confront the ghost or torch the remnants. I chose both. First, a pilgrimage to Queens. The old walk-up stood defiant. Graffiti-tagged stupid time capsule. Mrs. Kowalski. Mom's old neighbor. Now stooped and spectacled. Answered my knock. Ariana? Little Lightning? Lord. You look just like her. Overweak tea in her kitchen. Stories spilled. Mom's beau. The suit who drove a Cadillac. Left envelopes thick as magazines. She cried after.
Said it was for you.
But honey, those eyes. Haunted. Haunted. Like mine now. I thanked her, slipped 100 Reyes watch starter fund, and drove to the cemetery. Mom's stone. Simple granite. Maria Elena Reyes. Beloved mother. 1955 to 2009. Weeds choked the plot. I knelt, fingers tracing letters. I found him.
Ma.
The bastard who used you. I'm ending it. Back in Brooklyn. The plan coalesced. Echo Trust wasn't dormant. Quarterly drips to a P.O. box in Stamford, Evelyn's bolt hole. Post-conviction. She'd stashed it for a soft landing. Alimony disguised as legacy. Leak this. And her plea deal evaporates. Perjury charges. Back to the clink. But twist. Tom's name again.
Co-signer.
He'd known about Mom.
2.
Family secrets. He'd texted Richard once. Ari can't know. She'd bolt. Bolt? I'd chain myself willingly. No more. I drafted the whistle. Encrypted drop to ProPublica. With affidavits from Kowalski. Bank trails. The works. The Hargrove affair. How one family's lies span generations. Controversy incarnate. Me Too meets white-collar crime. Pitting protecting the vulnerable against smearing the fallen. Pundits would feast. Was I hero or harpy? Drop sent at midnight. IP masked to Timbuktu. By morning, my inbox exploded. Lena, holy shit.
Ari.
It's live. Links flooded. Headlines screaming Hargrove patriarch's secret mistress. Widow's daughter exposes all. Evelyn's response? A frantic voicemail. Voice shrill as shattering glass. You vindictive little slut. This destroys us. Tom's probation. Everything.
Click.
Then Tom, we need to talk. For Ethan. We met at a neutral diner, off the Merit. Fluorescent buzz like an interrogation room. He looked hollowed, gray at the temples. Suit rumpled. Ari.
Please.
Retracted. Dad's dying in there, prostate. Stage 4. My coffee turned to ash. Richard. Rotting in Federal Graybar Hotel. Part of me crowed. The rest?
Nausea.
You knew about Mom. Used her death to buy my silence. He flinched. It was a mistake. Youthful stupidity. I was 25. Interning. Dad's mess. Not mine. Lies. I slid printouts across Formica. You co-signed Echo. Kept the drips flowing. For what? Guilt cash. Tom's eyes darted, cornered rat. Evelyn. She leveraged it. Said it'd bind you closer. Family.
Ari.
That's all I wanted.
Bind.
Like a noose. You bound me to monsters. Ethan's face flashed innocent, unscarred. Probation or not, you're out. Full custody. Or I go nuclear. He signed the papers there. Hands shaking. A ghost of the man I'd loved. Or thought I did. The fallout cascaded. Evelyn's deal imploded. She flipped on minor players for a lesser sentence. But her memoir deal vaporized amid boycotts. Protests erupted. Feminists outside Hargrove remnants. Chanting justice for Maria. Conservatives decried cancel culture run amok. I fielded death threats. Doxing attempts. But Reyes' watch boomed. Donations hit 7 figures. Chapters in 5 states. Ethan noticed the tension. His 6-year-old wisdom cutting deep.
Mom.
Why do people yell your name on TV? I hugged him tight. Because we fixed something broken.
Buddy.
For Grandma. Summer waned. And I took him to Coney Island, hot dogs, cyclone rides. The ocean's roar drowning doubts. But closure? Elusive. Richard died in August. Obituary sanitized. Beloved patriarch. Family man. I skipped the funeral, but sent flowers to his cell, black roses. Thorns intact. Tom vanished after. Rumors of a Canadian fresh start. Good riddance. As leaves turned again, I stood in my Brooklyn brownstone. Ethan sketching at the table. The records, boxed and archived, gathered dust. Revenge's aftertaste? Bitter, but earned. I'd rewritten our story, not fairy tale, but American grit, flawed, fierce, forward. Yet in quiet moments, Mom's voice echoed, lightning strikes twice. Mija. Make it count. It had. But thunder rumbled, a new tip in my inbox. Another Hargrove skeleton. The fight never ends, it evolves. Fall 2025 crept in like a debtor's knock, crisp air laced with wood smoke and regret. Ethan was 8 now, all gangly limbs and questions that pierced like arrows.
Mom.
Was Dad a bad guy? He'd asked over pancakes, syrup dripping like unspoken accusations. I paused, spatula mid-flip. He made mistakes. Big ones. But he's trying to be better. Lies. To shield him. Truth? Tom was a specter. Occasional postcards from Vancouver. Miss you both. Working on me. Rhea's watch had exploded into a beast. Non-profit of the year nods. TED Talk invites, I dodged like flu shots. We audited trusts nationwide, exposing grifters from Florida flippers to Cali cults. But success a shadow? Paranoia. Every pinged email, every late-night call, I braced for Hargrove blowback. Evelyn, out on good behavior, had gone radio silent. Rumor had it she was penning hate mail from a Boca Raton condo, funded by crypto scams. Slippery as ever. The new tip arrived Halloween night. Ethan trick-or-treating as Spider-Man. Pillowcase bulging with loot. My phone lit up. Anonymous proton mail. Hargrove isn't dead. Echo 2.0, ask your boy. Heart slamming like a bass pedal. I forwarded to Lena. Trace this. Her reply, Cayman's again. But sender? Tricky. Looks internal. Hargrove holding skeleton crew. Skeleton crew. The remnants, cousins, yes-men who'd scattered like roaches. But ask your boy? Ethan's sugar crash hit the couch. Cape askew. I brushed his curls, dread pooling. What did they have on him? Blackmail fodder from the divorce, my instability, the bat incident Tom had spun? Dawn brought clarity, a deep dive. Echo 2.0 was a mirror, offshore nest egg. $1.20 mil. Beneficiary image. Trust. Ethan Michael Hargrove. They'd looped back. Post-scandal. Seeding his future with tainted coin. Withdrawals? Pennies to a youth foundation in his name. PR gloss over poison. Twist's knife. Signatory.
T.
Hargrove.
Tom.
From exile. Puppeteering through proxies. He'd played reformed dad. But this? Grooming Ethan as heir. Laundering legacy through our son. Rage. Revisited. I'd burned the nest. They'd rebuilt in his shadow. Controversial calculus. Expose again. Risk dragging Ethan into spotlights he'd hate? Or go rogue, hack?
Drain. Destroy?
I chose hybrid. Lena's feds for the legit kill. My shadows for the gut punch. First,
The boy.
I sat him down post-school, hot cocoa steaming.
Buddy.
Ever talk to Dad about money? Like, special accounts. His eyes widened, chocolate mustache twitching.
Once.
He said Nana left me a surprise for college. But don't tell you, it's a secret game. Secret game. Evelyn's ghost. Whispering through wires. I hugged him fierce. No more games. We're the good guys. Okay. That night, I geared up. Old contacts from the dark web days. An ethical hacker named Jax who'd owed me from a pro bono gig. Ari, this is felony territory, he warned over encrypted chat. Feds won't touch vigilante shit. Won't know. We scripted it. Infiltrate the trust portal. Siphon funds to frozen IRS accounts. Tagged forfeiture pending. Evidence trail. Irrefutable logs. Timestamped to Tom's VPN. Execution at 2 a.m. Ethan snoring upstairs. Fingers danced, code I'd memorized in insomnia vigils. Breach successful. Funds flowed. A digital heist smoother than Ocean's 11. But as the last transfer cleared, a booby trap sprung. Counterhack. IP pinged back to my router.
Shit.
Alarms wailed in my head. Jax typed frantic. Abort. They're tracing. Too late. Headlights swept the brownstone NYPD. Unmarked. Door pound like Judgment Day. MS. Reyes? Open up. Panic Claude. Ethan, wake him. Run?
No.
Face it. I cracked the door. Badge flashing. Ariana Reyes? We need to talk. Financial irregularities. They cuffed me in the living room. Ethan stirring upstairs to a babysitter's rush. Lena arrived at the station. Face thunderous. What the fuck? Ari? I said wait. Couldn't. Interrogation room. Stale coffee. Detective with a mustache like a 70s cop show. Ma'am. We got logs. You drained a trust. Kidnapping funds. Ironic for a watchdog. I leaned in. Voice steel. Not kidnapping. Reclaiming. Check the beneficiary, my son. Signatory. Ex-husband. Felon adjacent. Mustache twitched. That's for courts. Hours blurred. Bail posted by dawn. Courtesy of a board donor. Ethan. Wide-eyed at Lena's. Mommy in trouble? Trouble's over. Bug. But it wasn't. Tom surfaced. Press conference in Vancouver. Thierry, my ex, is unhinged. Using our son as pawn. Media frenzy reignited. Vigilante mom or vengeful harpy. Controversy peaked. Op-ed split. Progressives hailed justice hacker. Trads cried, lawless witch hunt. Protests at my doorstep. Signs free Ariana. Versus. Lock her up. Ethan homeschooled a week. My rock amid the storm. Chow Treo crashed New Year's Eve. Federal hearing.
Packed gallery. Tom testified.
Suit crisp. Voice breaking. She hacked us. For spite. But I rose. Records in hand. Echoes full ledger. Mom's ghost woven through. This isn't spite. It's pattern. They stole my mother. My marriage. My son's security. Again. Judge. A no-nonsense black woman from the Bronx. Eyed the pile. MS. Reyes. Vigilantism's no virtue. But evidence. Compelling. Motion to dismiss. Granted. Funds seized. Tom's passport yanked. Extradition pending. Twist's final turn. Post-hearing. Evelyn cornered me in the courthouse hall, frail. Chanel scarf askew. You win, lightning girl. But blood calls. She pressed an envelope, Mom's letters. Yellowed. To Ariana, forgive the shadows. I chose love, flawed as it was. Tears stung. Forgiveness? Not yet. But understanding, yes. Evelyn shuffled away. A defeated queen. Spring 2026, Ethan aced his entrance exams. Fund intact at $450,000 clean money. Scholarship stacking. We hiked the Appalachian Trail that summer, his laughs echoing like freedom bells. Tom, 15 years. Wire fraud. Evelyn faded into obscurity. A footnote in True Crime Pods.
Me?
Reyes watch Global now. But I stepped back, board chair, not frontline. In quiet Brooklyn nights, Mom's letters by my bed, I whispered thanks to the void. Rebirth's gift, not just survival, but sovereignty. Ethan, 12 and towering, asked once, Mom, if you could go back, would you change it? I smiled.
Fierce.
Every choice led here. And here, it's ours. In America's endless hustle, betrayals, bounces, breakthroughs, we don't just endure. We rewrite the script. Mine ended not in ashes, but a scent.